I grew up in a rural part of Zambia.
I would not want another woman to go through some of the things I went through.
People need to see role models, African women in different forms.
I want young black women that look like us, to understand that this is doable and they can be who they want to be.
There's no point of somebody else going through the struggle if sharing the information would ease that struggle for them.
So here we are, we three queens. I'm Micheline.
I'm Achieng.
And I'm Musonda.
So I want to get started by saying again, Micheline, and I'm part Ugandan, part Rwandan. And can you just tell us where you're from? And then we'll get into what we do and why we're even here and why we think our stories might be interesting. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So who wants to start?
I'm half Zambian and half South African, and I'm a scientist. In fact, I have a PhD from University of London.
Thank you very much.
Looking at wetland hydrology.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my yes.
Gosh. Okay, Achi, where are you from? What do you do?
So I'm Kenyan, 100%. And I work in digital marketing. I run a digital marketing agency, digitalodyssey.net. And my background is actually in marketing. I studied languages, so I speak fluent French, German, English, Swahili, Luo.
Polyglot.
And a few
Fabulous
words of
ladies,
Kikuyu.
I told you. So incredible, such different experiences. Told you where I'm from, trained in public health and trained in business. So I spent the first chunk of my life doing health programs, really just traversing the continent doing that. And then I just did a switcheroo, got an MBA, and I do a lot of business advisory, both having worked with big businesses as well as now more small and medium enterprises. And you know what? The range of experiences that we have, as over 40 women, I would say is what? Maybe something like over, maybe 55 years of experience, perhaps 12, probably more. I'm just, not outing our ages too much. Being conservative, I would say perhaps 15 languages among us, and that's not an exaggeration. And when we came together, we just thought, how can we bottle all these goodies in a way that we think is dynamic, is interesting, and just shares different kinds of stories about our lives, our journeys, our experiences. That's part of what We Three Queens is.
I think for me, as a Zambian, born and raised in Zambia, to this dual heritage of South Africa and Zambia, I found myself in a space where I moved in my mid-20s, got an internship in Switzerland, was living in Europe, and studied in Europe to do my PhD. Then eventually I just made a deliberate effort to move back to Africa. But here I was as a young black woman navigating the world and having, all these different questions and a lot of people asking about my career and, how did I work for, such big conservation organization or the UN or something of that sort. But I want young black women that look like us, to understand that this is doable and they can be who they want to be. And I think what people also forget, I grew up in a rural part of Zambia. I grew up close to the Congo border. Part of my heritage is Congolese. And my father's relatives would come home and they'll speak Swahili, they'll speak French, they'll speak Kilunda. So I found myself growing up in this pretty much a multi-polyglot environment. And so when I'm navigating my space and talking to, European counterparts, I'm like, I'm multilingual, I speak French, Spanish, and blah, blah. And I said, well, I'm also multilingual, I speak Xhosa, Bemba, Ngoni.
Told you, more than 15 languages a month.
Yes.
Oh my God.
French, some German, this, and
I forgot Swahili.
And Swahili, of course.
Yes.
And I just felt that I need young black women out there to look at me and not feel undervalued. I think I want to give them permission to be. You can be anywhere in the world. You can become anything you want to become. You can be a scientist, working in Mexico City for all I care.
Absolutely.
And you are a global person. You're a global, a global villager, for even the lack of a better term. This is community. This is what it is that even the social networks are trying to do. So I think I'm excited about this.
Yes.
I'm really excited. How do we tell our story so that we inspire other young Africans to be what they want to be?
I love that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I can totally relate to that. I mean, now more than ever, I come across a lot of young women, and sometimes I'll just tell a story and they'll be like, oh my goodness, and ask lots of questions. And it's struck me that there are so many things we've experienced as women in the corporate world, as Black women in the corporate world, as African women in the corporate world, that have been part of our journey, sometimes easy, sometimes very difficult.
Yeah.
And people don't need to necessarily go through that pain. I would not want another woman to go through some of the things I went through.
Absolutely.
If by sharing a nugget of something I've learned or a journey that I've been through along the way, it can ease the pain for them, or it can ease the hassle for them, or they can learn something that'll make their journey easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I sometimes feel like we've been there and we've experienced certain things and we've learned.
Absolutely.
There's no point of somebody else going through the struggle if sharing the information would ease that struggle for them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think people need to see role models, African women in different forms.
I'm a mother of a son. He's only 4. I also want young boys out there to really see this, to say, I want my son to grow up in a space where he's not afraid to date an astronaut.
Exactly.
And when she says, they're on a date, it's like, oh, so what were you doing last week? I was on the moon.
Exactly.
Like, are you kidding me?
I love that. Absolutely.
And that time is coming.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I need him to be comfortable with that. I don't want him to be disempowered or to feel like, oh, she's an astronaut.
Exactly.
No, I can't date her, or I cannot even imagine us having a relationship. I don't want that child to be afraid. I don't want that son to be afraid. I want him to be comfortable in his own skin and to be present and to bring to that space his being confident that he can talk to someone who was on the moon last week.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so it's it's really for everyone because we've said young girls and we've said absolutely young boys. Sometimes I think it's even our age mates. There are other people that just haven't maybe taken the risks or haven't had a certain exposure or just haven't been lucky, let's say. So, okay, we're just going to wrap up. Looking at you ladies, let me just start over here. You've got this fabulous necklace that I know has a story.
Well, I was in 2016. I was in Montpellier, and I was speaking at a conference, and I remember just taking some time out because I'd invited my twin sister to France to meet me up in France and have a holiday with me, which is great. And so we were walking in the streets, in the sort of narrow streets of Montpellier, and we literally sort of take a little bend, and I spot this store, and I'm like, Mumba, wait. I see something. And she's like, what? I was like, the jewelry in the window, look at that. And there were just these chunky pieces, yellows, reds, white. And anyway, so we walk in, we take a wander, and there's this Monsieur Henri. And I said, Monsieur Henri, what is the story of your jewelry? And he makes jewelry from plastic.
Wow.
So that's plastic.
This is plastic, my dear.
That's
and
incredible, isn't it?
think about it. Didn't Kenya,
I love the way it just sits on the side
Rwanda,
as well.
It's
banned
beautiful.
plastic?
Yes, Tanzania the other day.
Beautiful.
What can we do with all this plastic that we have?
And you always have great pieces. You're also another jewelry queen. Today, let me think. I spotted the mix of everything, right? If you just do this, you always have a lot of rings for people to see. You've got the gold and you're mixing it up. And I just think, and this ring in particular looks like it's a stone I've never seen. What's that ring about?
Oh, I have to tell you the story about this.
I love that.
But first of all, I'm crazy about costume jewelry. So this is a piece that I actually got at Maasai Market, and it comes with a big chunky necklace and a big chunky bracelet. My business partner was here from the UK, and it was her first time to Kenya. And I told her there's one place you have to go, since we're just in Nairobi and working, but you have to go to Maasai Market. So I took her to Maasai Market. I mean, you should have seen her reaction. She was like a child in a candy store.
I love it.
Because everything is colorful and vibrant and beautiful. And you know how it is, you negotiate and everybody's so wonderful and friendly at the Maasai market.
Yes.
I mean, she wanted to buy
Experience.
everything. It's just that, you know, then you'd have 100 kilos to take back, you
Right.
know? But this was one of the pieces that I picked up at Maasai market. And for me, just looking around and seeing many locals, many tourists as well, but many locals there, it's just such a nice, I almost feel like we've gone full circle as Africans, as Kenyans, celebrating and appreciating and embracing our heritage. Because we're wearing African, you know, when I was growing up as a child, we didn't really, in the city, it was
we
kind
looked
of,
down on that whole,
it was kind of not embraced and celebrated. Today it is. So,
and I love the story and just the way you mix it all up.
oh, well, thanks,
You
darling.
know,
And look who's talking.
Yes.
What did I? Oh, today
This, I love this.
Well, you know what? This piece, it's a whole bunch of coral.
Wow.
So that is the value of the piece.
Yeah.
With a whole bunch of black beads,
Yeah.
right? And the thing about it is that I was walking in Sardinia, basically holiday in Italy. Yeah, a friend invited us, exactly, right? So these like European trolls, and I'm walking just thinking I need to buy some things you just take home, right? No, in fact, I wanted to just get ice cream. That was my thing. It's like I'm going to buy gelato, and that's it. It wasn't a major shopping trip, but in the back of my mind, I was like, let me buy something to take home as well if we find it. And a friend said to me, you know, come into this store.
Yeah.
And when I went in, it was one of those stores that just has a mishmash of everything.
Yeah.
And my friend Ricarda is like, Micheline, you have to absolutely buy this one. You are not leaving this one behind. And then all the ladies from like the shopkeepers, there were like 3 sisters.
Yeah.
And they came out, they were like, Micheline, si, signora, si, bella. I mean, I could not leave this thing alone.
Right.
And I love it because
gorgeous.
it's kind of like, does it make you think of an African country or something?
It makes me think of Rwanda.
Can you imagine?
Because I've seen jewelry kind of in those same colors.
Yes.
Nice, lots of beads and everything, and it was red and black, but mostly red from
Rwanda.
Rwanda.
That's
So when I saw
interesting.
it, I just thought you must have gotten it from Rwanda.
It actually reminds me of Nigeria.
Really?
You know, because for weddings,
They
Yeah.
have coral.
they have coral.
Yeah.
They wear
Yeah.
loads of coral for weddings.
And I
Yeah,
think
right?
I got attracted to that sort of, you know, the Africanness of it. Some people have said it looks Maasai, you know?
Yeah.
But no, my pieces just have too many stories. So that's my story.
I love
Those
it.
are our stories. Thank you so much. It was such a great chat. Getting our stories together, really introducing. Here we are. We 3 queens. Ta-da. Bye-bye. Ciao.